Their offices are constantly flooded with calls from African Americans starving for an opportunity because they know the chances of them getting an opportunity to elevate in the National Football League is slim to none in most other places throughout the National Football League. Did I even get into ownership? No, I did not. Maybe I should. Why? Because outside of Shad Khan in Jacksonville, you can't find a face different than white folks.
This was Kevin Stefanski pretty much declaring public war on Shedeur, or at least Cold War on Shedeur, because he won't even speak Shedeur's name.
It's entertainment designed to keep the masses happy, as the masses are robbed of God-given rights and freedoms. That's why the NFL refuses to defend itself from allegations of racism.
Stephen A. Smith is back, and he's here to talk about the growing controversy surrounding ShedeurSanders and the Browns. This isn't just some football dilemma anymore. It's much bigger than that. According to Stephen A., what we're witnessing here isn't just bad decision-making. It's outright racism. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, is going beyond his jurisdiction, making sure ShedeurSanders never even gets a shot on the field. Why? Because if he does, Stefanski will have to admit something that many in the league are trying to avoid. ShedeurSanders, a black prodigy, is far superior to his so-called white brat quarterback, Dillon Gabriel. The racism that was once hidden is now coming to the surface, and fans everywhere are calling out Stefanski for his blatant racial biases against ShedeurSanders. This is a moment that cannot be ignored any longer. Kevin Stefanski's decision to name Bailey Zappi as QB2 over ShedeurSanders, citing an alleged injury, has sparked a wave of frustration among fans and analysts. Stefanski defended his decision, claiming he's not ready to take risks with young players like Shedeur. It seems as though he's trying to reassure everyone that things are under control. But if we dig deeper, his actions tell a different story. While he insists that Shedeur is too young for such a responsibility, he's still willing to give players like Quinshon Judkins a chance, despite the fact that Judkins didn't even have a full training camp and is already making an impact. If Judkins is given the opportunity to prove himself, why is Shedeur being denied the same opportunity?
I always have to be mindful of our players and our players' development, and I want to make sure that I'm always doing what's best for our players and, of course, our team. But
Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back in his criticism of Kevin Stefanski's handling of the quarterback situation, highlighting the clear contradictions in his decisions. When Stefanski benched Joe Flacco, it seemed like an obvious sign that ShedeurSanders would step up as the backup. But instead, Stefanski chose Flacco to be the QB2. Now that Flacco is gone, Shedeur is still being overlooked, and to make things worse, Bailey Zappi is reportedly ahead of him on the depth chart. Stephen A. has called this move entirely unacceptable, and the tension surrounding the situation is escalating. It's evident that something needs to change, but one thing is clear: Stefanski's decisions aren't random. There's a deeper agenda at play, and the ongoing discussion in the NFL now focuses on whether Stefanski's actions are driven by personal bias against ShedeurSanders.
Right there starving and waiting for an opportunity. So I looked at it like that, and I just said to myself, okay, but that's how it goes. Joe Flacco's a veteran. Kevin Stefanski, knows what he's doing as a coach, etc. But then something like this happens. We're supposed to sit here and believe that Bailey Zappi is a guy that's the QB2 on this squad.
Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back, emphasizing just how odd it is that ShedeurSanders remains so low on the depth chart. He pointed out Sanders' stellar performance against the Panthers in the preseason, where he played exceptionally well. On top of his skills on the field, Stephen A. highlighted Shedeur's strong character off the field, showcasing him not only as a talented player, but as a person of high integrity. Despite all of this, Stefanski continues to overlook him, even though he frequently talks about the importance of developing rookies. It simply doesn't make sense. And Stephen A. made it clear that the situation has become incredibly frustrating.
ShedeurSanders played well, albeit against Carolina. Obviously, another game in the preseason, not so much. And I get that part too. And of course, I get the fact that he's practicing with the team every day, so the coach knows. I'm just finding it hard to believe that it's so difficult to name him a QB2, especially when you say you're so invested in the kid's development.
While the claim of racism may seem surprising to some, the reality is that racial issues have become deeply embedded in the NFL. The league has faced ongoing criticism over its handling of race, whether it's the treatment of black coaches or players on the field. Although the NFL has defended its actions, claiming to implement measures that ensure its prominence in the media and maintain its stock values, these efforts often appear to backfire. A clear example is last year's Super Bowl, where any references to racism were intentionally removed from the broadcast. It's hard to overlook the optics of this decision, especially during such a high-profile event attended by figures like Donald Trump and major stakeholders. Instead of using the platform to make a bold statement against racial injustice, the league chose to send a different message altogether.
According to reports this week, the NFL is going to remove the words "end racism" from the end zone during the Super Bowl this Sunday. And I know that sounds so shocking that you think it can't be real, but it is.
As the controversy deepened, more players began to speak out about racism within the league. When asked about its presence in the locker rooms, they didn't shy away from the truth, acknowledging that racism is indeed widespread in those spaces. One player even described the locker room, which many view as a sacred environment, as being deeply influenced by racism behind closed doors. Unfortunately, those who face this racism often feel powerless to speak up, fearing the potential damage it could cause to their careers. It's a difficult situation. Either stay silent and continue playing, or speak out and risk facing a negative media backlash that could overshadow their voice and tarnish their reputation.
Racism inside of the locker room.
The one sacred place that you think you have is the locker room. There's a lot of things that go on inside that, you know, the outside world isn't privy to, a lot of conversations. But does racism exist in the locker room? Yes.
Many black players, fearing the impact on their careers, feel compelled to downplay the existence of racism within the NFL, sometimes going as far as to claim that the NFL is the least racist institution in the country. This isn't just hearsay. There's a real example in Cam Ward, the first overall draft pick, who openly expressed that every boy dreams of making it to the NFL, no matter how difficult the journey may be. Racism or not, reaching the NFL is seen as the ultimate achievement. Ward's statement highlights a painful truth. For many players, the dream of playing in the league is so powerful that it outweighs the risks of addressing the systemic issues that persist within it.
Is because they're trying to get on the field. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to try to get to the NFL, no matter how hard it is.
Tom Brady's comments on black quarterbacks who embrace self-expression only highlight the ongoing issue of racism in the NFL. Although he attempted to backtrack by saying celebrations should be team-focused, his remarks about self-branding and individualism revealed a deeper, more concerning attitude. His criticism exposed a clear bias, demonstrating a lack of respect for players who choose to express their personalities and build their own brand, especially when those players are black. It's becoming increasingly clear that his perspective is part of a larger, troubling issue within the league. In conclusion, the situation surrounding ShedeurSanders and Kevin Stefanski is a reflection of the deeply rooted racial biases within the NFL. Despite Shedeur's remarkable talent and strong character, he continues to be overlooked and denied opportunities simply because of his identity as a black quarterback. Stefanski's decisions, including the continued sidelining of Sanders in favor of players like Bailey Zappi, appear to be driven by more than just football logic. They suggest a personal and racial bias against Shedeur, who has proven himself capable time and time again. This issue is not isolated to just one player or one coach, but points to a much larger systemic problem within the NFL. Black players, particularly black quarterbacks, often find themselves facing prejudices that go beyond their abilities on the field. From the way they are portrayed in the media to the opportunities they are given, these players are often held to a different standard than their white counterparts. Shedeur's situation is a clear example of how the NFL's culture continues to marginalize black talent, especially when that talent refuses to conform to traditional expectations. The growing criticism, especially from figures like Stephen A. Smith and Cam Ward, underscores the need for change within the league. It's evident that this is more than just a case of bad decision-making. It is a reflection of the NFL's ongoing struggle with race. For ShedeurSanders and other black athletes, the fight for equality and recognition continues both on and off the field. Until the league confronts these issues head-on, the cycle of discrimination and missed opportunities will only persist, and the NFL will continue to tarnish its reputation as a fair and inclusive institution. What do you think about ShedeurSanders' situation? Do you believe that his lack of opportunities is simply a matter of poor decision-making by Stefanski? Or do you think racism plays a role in this? How do you feel about the way the NFL treats black quarterbacks who embrace self-expression and individuality? Should they be held to the same standards as their white counterparts? Or is there an underlying bias at play? Do you think the league is doing enough to address racial issues, or is this something that needs to be confronted more directly? We want to hear your thoughts on this ongoing controversy. Let's start a conversation.